Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Today I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful French country egg using Redesign with Prima, Luxe and H2O transfers and moulds. For my project today, I'm going to be using this 10 centimeter plastic egg ornament. You can find these on eBay, Amazon. I picked this up at a local craft store. I'm going to be using Gorilla Super Glue Gel to glue the two sides together. So I'm applying the glue around the seam of the egg, and then I'm going to be joining the two halves together, pressing firmly, and then removing any excess glue with a wet wipe. To prepare my surface for paint, I'm going to be using a 2-in-1 primer in white. This is going to make sure that my paint sticks well, and it's a great blank background for all the other products I'm going to layer on top. I'm going to apply 2 coats of this, let it dry, and then I took out Redesign's Regal Flourish mould. I've dusted it with cornstarch, and now I'm working some air dry clay into the design I want to use, pushing it in and then pushing the excess out. You can use resin for this step, but I'm going to be using partial castings of this, so clay really was the best option for me. I'm then going to flex the mould, flip it over, and carefully release my casting, helping any little bits that are getting a little bit stuck along the way. Once I have that casting released, I'm going to use a palette knife to separate some of the sections. I am going to be using them, but I'm just going to be rearranging them. So I'm just cutting where I think I am going to need to. Ultimately, I am trying to create a beautiful ornate frame to go around the outside. I am then going to begin positioning my castings. I am using Sealy's Quickset wood glue for mine. Any type of good quality wood glue is going to be great for this. And as you can see, I'm carefully piecing my molds around the outside, gluing them down, being careful not to damage any of the details. And then I am going to add a little piece down the bottom. That was a little piece that we cut off from the center of the Regal Flourish mold. And then I am going to do another partial casting here. And then once I've released that one, I am going to be putting this on the other side of the egg. So one side has got a nice big blank open space in the center. This one, however, I am going to add more of the beautiful Regal Flourish mold there, and I'm just positioning my castings how I want them to go. I let my castings dry overnight, and the next day I added a duck egg blue to one side of the egg. I am going to go over the castings about halfway, but I'm going to be adding other paint over the top of that, so that doesn't really matter too much. So this paint does have a built-in sealer as well. I am then going to add a cream mineral paint to the other half of the egg, and I am applying my paint in a dabbing and stippling motion so I don't get brush strokes. And I ended up doing 2 coats of each paint on each side. I let my paint dry overnight, and then the next day I took out the Gilded Spring H2O Transfer. As you can see, this has a lot of beautiful spring and Easter images to choose from, and it is very elegant. So I decided on these two, the Leaping Rabbit and the Happy Easter design there. I'm going to mist the surface with water, peel the plastic backing off the H2O transfer, and then I'm going to position it design side down into the water. I'm using a mister to wet the top of it as well, and then I'm using a wet wipe to apply more moisture and pressure. Now this is a curved surface, so this was a little bit more of a challenge, and I definitely had to be careful and take my time here, but I just made sure that I held it in place really carefully, and then I peeled back the H2O transfer, just checking as I'm going to make sure it was all down securely. I'm going to repeat the same process. I'm adding some more water where the leaping bunny is going to go. I peeled off the plastic, and then I'm positioning the design in that water and adding more water over the top. And adding the wet wipe also adds more moisture and, as I said, pressure. So this is definitely something you want to do slowly. And as you can see, this design is really cute. I wanted to add a little bit more though. So I'm going to cut out this bunny from the center. I'll use that on another project. I really want the laurels around it, but I'm going to split it in half so that I can have it look a bit like the laurels are behind the bunny. So I'm going to cut it out according to the space that I have to work with, just checking each time to make sure that it's going to fit. It doesn't really matter if it overlaps a little bit. And then I'm going to add more water and again peel off that plastic and add the H2O transfer into the moisture, add more over the top, and then carefully peel it back. Remember, you can do sort of little peaks just underneath the H2O transfer backing to make sure it is adhered. And then if it hasn't, you just put it back down and add more moisture and pressure. So as you can see, I've added the other pieces of that wreath or laurel there. And then when the water had dried, I added a clear coat over the top. I'm using a gloss clear coat here to maintain that beautiful shine. Next, I took out the Romance on Fleur Luxe Transfers. So these are new from Redesign and they are really gorgeous. I love these French designs. It goes perfect with that bunny. So I have selected this one here and I'm going to peel the plastic off. You can see the design is on there. And then I'm going to flip it over and add it to the cream side of the egg. Now these are very flexible, which is perfect for our project. And I'm just going to smooth it down, but I am going to work in sections. I'm going to transfer the top part of it first, just rubbing at it, lifting the plastic as I'm going, and then I'm going to work my way down to the bottom part of the transfer until I have it all transferred down. Again, just make sure that you are taking your time when you're using these transfers, especially when you're working on a curved surface. Once I had my image secured, I then sealed that side with a gloss clear coat as well. When that was dry, I started applying an antiquing glaze. I'm really working it into the low points of the molds. I really want to highlight the beautiful details of them. I'm also using a water mister to help my glaze move and to sink down into those low spots. My paint has a built-in sealer and I did seal my transfers, so I'm able to wipe back as much as I want. I'm pulling it back with a wet wipe. This is going to give my project quite a vintage feel, so if that's not to your taste, you could definitely leave this step out. I am really focusing on the molds and then wiping it back, but on the blue side, I'm going to add a little bit to the areas where we don't have the gilded transfer so that I don't dim any of that beautiful shine. When that was dry, I took out a gold metallic paint and I'm going over the top of my castings around the outside. And as I was applying this, it didn't really feel exactly like the right color, so I do end up deciding to switch to a bronze, which is slightly darker. I'm going to be layering that over the top to get the color that I want. So here you can see I'm coming in now with that slightly darker, and I felt like this just tied in a bit better with the H2O transfers. So I'm going over the top of all of the molds. I don't need this to be perfect. I'm happy for it to look like aged gilding that has worn away over time. I'm working my way to the back of the egg here now and adding that bronze over the top. I only ended up needing to do one coat of this. And if you're going to give this project a try, remember you can definitely change the colors used to suit your style and your home decor. You could put a different metallic around the outside and of course a different color underneath your transfers. When my metallic paint was dry, I took out this beautiful lace that I had in my stash. I'm going to be folding the ends together to create a bow, but I don't want any tails to my bow that might obscure the beautiful details on the egg. So I am going to add some hot glue to the ends of the ribbon to help them sort of stay together a little bit more easily, and then I'm also going to add some to the center of that ribbon or lace, and I am going to pull the ends together to create two loops, and then I'm going to pinch the center together. And then once I have that looking the way that I want, I'm going to add another thin gold ribbon around the center to complete the bow. I'm going to tie a double knot to secure the two ends. And this is also a great way to save on lace and ribbon that you have that you might not quite have enough to do a big bow. Now, because this is a double-sided piece, I am going to end up doing two bows. So I've tied that double knot. I'm going to cut off the excess ribbon so that you can't see it, and then I'm going to be using hot glue to attach it to the top section of my egg. I'll make another bow exactly like this and glue it to the other side as well. I felt like this lace definitely suited the French country theme of today's project, but you could use any kind of ribbon that you like. And here's a look at our French country egg. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I think that the molds and the Luxe and H2O transfers go perfectly together. Let me know what you think of today's project in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, we would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, and if you haven't already, we would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find a full product list in the description below, and thank you for watching.